So I wanted to ask you about, because we were talking about stress and the central nervous system, and I know you have your own story with autoimmune disease and how that relates to it. So I just wanted to ask you about that. What's your journey been like with autoimmune and how that reflects on fertility?
Okay. That's what my second book's on, Autoimmune.
Okay.
Did some this morning,
Amazing.
half 5 for an hour. I think it's not until you're in that space of no longer resisting and falling into something that you can look back and be like, where are these dots joining up?
Okay.
So I think stress within the womb, we don't often talk about that, but obviously if you're feeding your baby through the placenta and all of the stuff is going into it, your stress is going to go into it. So that's a question I often ask my clients if they're open to that. You know, what was going on with your parents? Was your dad around? What was going on socially? One lady I had, she didn't come to me for fertility because I don't just do fertility. She came to me just for general well-being and a bit of weight management. She was hitting 40, had 3 kids, was finding it harder to lose the weight. Her skin was flaring up a bit. And she was quite controlled, I would say, in everything she did. Everything was very controlled. Like her hair and makeup was always perfect. You know, she was at the top of her profession within a big beauty company. You know, everything was very controlled and she found it difficult. And I'd had great success in the work I'd done with her husband. She was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And I said to her, what was going on with your mum? Like, go and ask your mum what was going on in her life when she was pregnant. And this lady was of Pakistani descent, and there were some race riots going on in Birmingham when her mum was pregnant with her, and she had to take this bus all the way through, like the riots and people petitioning and everything daily while she was heavily pregnant, still doing her job where everyone else was white.
Yeah.
And she had no control over that. And she was trying to protect her baby. And this now as a grown woman of like 40 was still like this. We had to let it go. Yeah. And honor that.
Yeah. Wow. So that's quite, because that's consistent with the research that was done with the Holocaust survivors and how it's passed down genetically.
Yeah.
And Gabor Mate, you know, great, love his work. He's quite famous for saying that 80%, I mean, autoimmune disease statistically affects way more men, way more women than it does men.
I think it's times 4.
And 80% of that, and he puts that down to trauma, early life trauma, as to the origin of that, which, you know, is consistent with what you've just said in the way that the body remembers and keeps the score in relation to how the brain and the central nervous system connect. So I was just wondering what's your journey been with, like, how, you know, for you growing up?
So me looking back now, like, so when my mum was pregnant with me, when I was born, she loved me so much, and I've always had like quite a close relationship with her when I was younger. I was one of those sickly kids. Okay. I was always sickly. So I got what did I get? Scarlet fever at 6. I had this thing called molluscum symphonosum between 6 and 14, where I used to get these bubbles all over my legs and my back. Oh, it was awful. My mum had to prick them with a pin and I would scream, and then she had to put vinegar. This is what the doctors told her, put vinegar on them. It was awful. Gosh. I was always very slight as well. I was, you know, I could eat till the cows come home, but I would never put on weight. And if someone else got a cold, I'd get the flu. I was one of them.
Right.
So looking back, when my mum was pregnant with me, so it was 1973, my mum's white. I'm obviously not white. My dad's black. My dad's in prison. Right? So my dad's in prison for... What's worse, ABH or GBH? The worst one.
They're both pretty bad.
I know, but the one you
yeah.
get longer for in prison. It was in prison for 8 years.
Right,
So
okay.
it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I think it was the one before attempted manslaughter.
Okay.
So just think, she's not able at 19 years old to be able to tell her very middle class parents that her dad's a respected psychiatrist, you know,
Sure.
they're upstanding members of the community. So she leaves town, goes to another town. She doesn't want to let anyone know.
Yeah.
Comes back with me when I'm a few months old. So she's had no support. No
Wow.
She's had support of her best girlfriends and people like that. But not a mum putting her arm around her, telling her it's going to be okay. You know, so you can imagine, I'm sure there was many a night she probably cried herself to sleep, felt lonely, whatever. And it's that thing of not being one to be seen. And I think when I was 6 years old, so I was then sent to a private school because, no, it was before I was, so when I was 4, we moved to Bury and we had our windows smashed in. We had bricks thrown through the windows, notes wrapped around it. And I can still remember these notes being wrapped around with elastic bands saying packy, kill the packy, get rid of the packy, all of these things. And it was me. And there was often, you know, hushed conversations about me with the police round. We got a dog. My mum wasn't allowed to go out with me without the dog, you know, this huge Alsatian to protect. And then I was sent to a private school because it was probably seen I couldn't go to the local state school because I'd get my head kicked in. And I did literally get my head kicked in when my mum let me play out with the local kids. When I was 6, they asked to play out with me. And they took me to the bowling green because our house backed onto a park. So it was only like Cobble Street, then the park. Bury Municipal Park. And these I felt really, I never forget like walking down the street, thinking, oh, I'm really cool. I'm hanging out with the local kids and there's some older kids there and they think I'm cool and different. And they got me on the bowling green and there was a red brick. So I've never bought a red brick house. I won't go in one. And they just pounded me with it. And I still have like, there's a bump on my head there. And if you go in it, there's like a little lump inside my head. And they then squirted washing liquid into my eyes and just kicked the living daylights out of me. And it was the park warden, whoever came along and shooed them all away and wrapped me up and took me home in a blanket. And I was never allowed to play out again.
Yeah. Wow. How old were you when your dad got released from prison?
I think I must have been about, must be like 6, 7.
What was that like for you? Can you remember back
I don't
to
know.
that point?
I just know I was never allowed to see him.
Yeah.
I never met my dad until I was 30, maybe 29. No, about 32 I met my dad. Early 30s.
So here you are, early 30s, with all this that's gone. You know, what was that like for you?
What, meeting him?
Yeah.
He was a really kind, nice man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like we judge people, don't we? Like society had judged him.
Yeah.
I couldn't really fully judge him. I just knew he was in prison. I didn't know until like my teenagers what he'd done. But no one told me why he'd done it or anything. Yeah. You know, and he told me why he'd done it and he regrets it and all of these things, and he changed his life since then. And I just saw this very small man who felt embarrassed, felt like I was going to judge him.
Sure.
And I just really wanted to reassure him that I was happy. I was healthy-ish at the time, and I was doing all right. And that was my biggest thing.
Got you. And we were talking just then outside about, you mentioned the word connecting the dots. How important is it for people? Because we're dealing with the here and now. And I've seen this, you know, many times with working with people, the backstory that we're trying to piece together, and we make assumptions about what things were and why things happen. How important has that been for you in your journey to kind of look back and piece things together to enable you to move forward and not be stuck in the past.
Yes, exactly. I think therapy, like I did a lot of therapy in like my teens, 'cause my grandpa was a psychiatrist and he'd be doing, I knew it now, he was doing therapy, having long chats with me. And I've done therapy, I don't know, in my late 20s when I didn't feel I was good enough and I wasn't a good enough mom and all of those things. Yeah. And some therapies I feel for me are great because they're not deep in the story. They're like, what does that story mean to you now?
Yeah.
What does it mean to you now? Not like, oh, poor you had the shit kicked out of you. What does it mean to you now?
Sure.
And I was like, that's helped me.
Yeah.
That helped me. So the therapy as a late teen was like, okay, you don't have to hide. And for me, then I went off and became a model. Like, I don't have to hide. Everyone just look at me. Do you know what I mean? Everyone look at me.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay not to fit in. It's okay. I can just go and fit in elsewhere. It's all right. And then I think I had to do body psychotherapy, which I found really helpful. Like, where do you feel it in your body?
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot.
Makes sense.
Make myself small, right? Because I was 5'8", 7 stone at 12 years old. I was like that, like a rake. Do you know what I mean? So you just make yourself small and then no one's going to look at you. And I had to do that in my acting school where I went in my mid-30s, you know, a bit late to go to acting school, but I was like, oh, I'm well now. I recovered from lupus. I'm going to do all those things I wanted to do that people said you can't do. And because that was a lot of method acting, we had to do body psychotherapy every Saturday. Right. And that was amazing. Amazing. I saw people walk in that you could see weren't happy actually in their body. And then after 3 months, they were suddenly walking tall. Or with me, the biggest thing was I had this teacher from America and you had to just read a piece of script. She's actually Susan Baxton. Look her up. Fierce woman. She's amazing. She's Nicole Kidman's acting coach and Tom Cruise's. So I read this piece of work for her and she just looked at me. She went, that's not your voice. Well, I can't do an American accent, but she was like, that's not your voice. I was like, that is my voice. I'm like 35. That's not your voice. And she did this work with me. And then she was like, now do it. And I suddenly went into the deeper voice I have now. Because I used to talk like that. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, hello, Paul. And la, la, la. Do you know what I mean? And she was like, you're afraid of your own force. Yeah. Wow. And then I stood up and I did this thing. And like these people I'd been training with like a year. And even my English acting coach was like, who's she? Yeah. And I nailed this piece of Shakespeare, like this queen. And everyone was like, whoa. She's usually just like the timid woman that's been beaten up or whatever. Because I was just playing back into that old story of what I knew.
Yeah. And the way you hold your body and the voice,
and I could
it reflects the identity
and do
that
all
you've
of that.
Created for yourself, doesn't it? Because it's absolutely, that makes so much sense. It really does. And that shift for you in that, because I think of the identity of the sickly kid and staying small, which kept you safe back then. To a certain degree.
Yeah, like physically safe because otherwise no one's going to throw stuff at you if they can't see you.
What was the shift? Was it in the acting school? Because I think what we also miss sometimes, whilst it's the therapy or it's the acting school, it's the initial desire to go and do it where the courage comes in. Because you can't change through therapy without actually walking through the door.
The initial desire to get better, when I'd been diagnosed with lupus and my daughter at 12 had just tucked me into bed. Right. And I was having a finger of fudge. That's what, we used to do and have our little chats. Was when she asked, what was she going to do for money when I died?
Wow.
because she said, I know all about tracker mortgages. We've been learning it at school. I've got my Saturday job, but she had like, I don't know, £12 a day or whatever it was. She said, who's going to take care of me? Do I go to live with Ben, the guy I'd been with for 8 years, and we'd split up because of the lupus? Not because he wasn't looking after me, because he was, but I found that suffocating.
Yeah.
And I hold my hand up. I was angry at him for being this strapping 6'2" athletic person who went running every day, and I was peeing in the bed because I couldn't have the strength, even with a lever, to get me out of bed unless someone could get me down the hall to the toilet. And I was really angry about that.
Yeah. And just explain what lupus is. It's the
Lupus.
Lupus is the
So
autoimmune.
lupus is an autoimmune disease that can affect so many people in different ways. So for me personally, it was attacking my skin. So I had this butterfly rash. So all of my skin was quite scaly here. I had a lesion here, like broken lesion welts. Here, like huge, like that there. So all my hair fell out. I had another one there. I had to have about 12 mouth ulcers at all times. My tongue was bleeding. I don't know. I weigh maybe like 9.5 stone now. I was down to 5.25. So muscle wastage, huge pain. All I'm writing about it at the moment. All I can describe is, imagine, for me, it was like hot, like a poker that you put in the fire. That's what it felt like. But that's what my bones felt like. That they were like hot rods burning at all times. I couldn't even plait my daughter's hair because I couldn't move. My hands were like witchy, you know, and they would stay like that. I couldn't move them. I'd have constant migraines. My menstrual cycle sort of flipped the lid. So I'd be bleeding for 3 weeks off for a week. And what else happened? I developed a heart arrhythmia. Some people, it can attack their kidneys. I obviously had huge anxiety, insomnia. I think that was about it.
And you say you...
Oh, my gut was all over the place and I had really, really bad breath.
Yeah. Okay. Great mix.
Lovely, sexy.
You said you fixed it.
Oh, my gums used to bleed a lot.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Right. And you fixed it. Like when you say you healed from it.
Yeah.
Just talk to us about that journey.
So there was that trigger moment where, yeah, of course, and everyone still says that in Western traditional medicine, there's no cure, but functional medicine doctors would say, and as I say, and I've been saying for 15 years, maybe you don't need a cure. Unless, of course, it's attached to your kidneys and you're on dialysis, you know. If you've got the chronic fatigue, the rheumatoid, the arthritis, the skin, you know, my skin's completely fine now, right? One's if you remove the irritants, restore any things that need restoring, address the trauma, your nutritional deficiencies, get a DNA check, you know, start joining the dots, then your blood work will start to show the difference.
Okay.
You know, I'm a huge fan of the NHS. I'm a huge fan of science. Yeah. Why don't you do the stuff that helps the science as well? And when your doctor says, wow, you know, your vitamin D levels have really gone up. You don't seem as anxious. Your inflammation markers are going down massively. I had one boy, right? How old was he when he came to see me? I think he was about 9. I worked with him for 2 years. He had irritable bowel disease. So there was high inflammation within his gut. So bad that this boy, when they first contacted me and he was meant to start working with me, he couldn't because he was hospitalized for 3 weeks. And he was on steroids, autoimmune injections, IVs, all of this stuff. Of course, I am not a medical professional, so I can't say, take this supplement, take that. I'm not going to tell it. I removed gluten, all sources of UPF foods, seed oils, and anything that wasn't a natural sugar. So you could have fruit and all that stuff. And I replaced it with high nutrient dense foods. We got him exercising more. We took him off the games. He was huge in this games. Like, he was getting paid at a young age to be in this gaming world because he was so good at it, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing well at school, so why not encourage him to do that? And we moved things, and his inflammation scores went from, like, they said they'd gone so high they weren't scoring anymore. It was like something ridiculous, like in the thousands. And we got it down at one point to 2 digits. Wow. Which made him sleep better, which made him less angry, which enabled him to get back into school. Now, I didn't cure his IBD. No. I just maneuvered his lifestyle a little bit and showed, asked his parents, why don't you ask the doctors this? Maybe test this. Maybe he might be missing this. And he was missing a few things. So then the doctors said, right, let's get him on a high dose of vitamin D, right? So he could be controlled and tested. You don't just walk out there and go into your local high street and be like, yeah, I'm going to start taking 20,000 IU of vitamin D. If you don't know what vitamin D is, you might be over supplement and make yourself ill.
And where would they get these inflammation markers? Is that something they can get through the doctors, or is it something
If you there's a lot of private testing you can do now. I am affiliated with a company called Stride. I think they're amazing. Okay. But you can get tests for like a couple of £100. Now, especially if you're a woman and you're not putting on those fake nails that now they're saying a lot of them are toxic, you're saving yourself there £40 every week or every other week. Do that for 2 months. You've got your money to get the test. Test, don't guess. Once you've got your test, then you could create a targeted approach to your recovery rather than just be like, oh, I'm just going to throw all this in and see what works.
Yeah. And that makes sense. How important is that mindset towards that? The creation, because we're talking about creation in relation to birth or creating a new identity.
I think sometimes you've got to... I was talking to a doctor about this the other day, and because I'm heading up being the coach for his 3 clinics for autoimmune, and he's a doctor that's been within the NHS for 35 years. And he asked me to be the coach, and I actually said yes, 100% for the fertility. And at first I said, I'm not sure I can do the autoimmune. And he said, why? And I said, sometimes the person's quite comfortable in that space. And we are conditioned to find the answers always within someone else. And if they don't have the answers, then there's no answer. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's no cure, there's no answer. And it's taking that responsibility for self. And sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, like with alcohol or any kind of addiction, to then say, actually, I want to find a different approach because this one's not working for me. But if you're doing okay on your steroids and your naproxen and all your painkillers, you're kind of doing all right.
Yeah.
And Jane down the road, she's on it too, and she's doing all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got to the point where I was taking 18 tablets a day, and one of them was making me feel suicidal, and I could only take it just before I went to bed once a week because it's that strong, this drug. They only would give me 2 of the tablets at a time. And every 2 weeks I had to have my liver checked, my blood work done, because I was on this drug. Yeah. And I was like, this is not living.
The moment that happens quite a lot is it's when the desperation finally is presented to you, which comes, from a health scare or, your child saying to you, like,
child saying he's going to look at it. And I was like, okay, if there's one person in the world that has reversed this, I'm going to be number 2. Yeah. Because I chose not to have an abortion and to bring this child into the world. So it's my responsibility that I have to stay there for her.
And it does, doesn't it? And I think like the massive question, and see this a lot, is like, how do you, for people, because I relate to that, ultimately it's the suffering and the desperation, they call it the gift of desperation, that actually gives you the tools, because you get in a a familiar space with it,
Yeah.
even though it's not working for you. It just becomes a kind of normality.
Yeah.
Because it's not that
and we
bad.
say that's who I am. You might say, yeah, but I've always been a bit of a drinker.
So
I've always been a bit of a partier. I've always spent money on clothes. Or I've always been that sickly child.
Yeah.
Now I'm just a bit of a sickly adult.
So I call it the 3Ds. So because we talk a lot about discipline and how we kind of like, well, you're ill-disciplined if you this is what you should do and you're not doing it, therefore you're ill-disciplined. So discipline. But there's 2 Ds that come before discipline. And the first thing that you've got to feel is desperation.
Yeah,
and when you feel the desperation, that really allows you to get on the path towards a discipline. But the one that sits right in the middle of it is denial. And that's the bit that keeps everything in the norm, because we sanitize it. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
This is just the way it is. This is the way I am. Well, it's because of my genetics, because of the way I was brought up. So the denial comes into it. So it's like, how do people... And denial's there for good reason. It keeps us away from feeling shame, and it's not comfortable feeling desperation. So the body's trying to protect ourselves from feeling that immediate pain. And it's like, when we become aware of that, how do we get there before we get to the desperation, to see that things need to change before it goes to the depths of despair that, it needs to do, which ultimately ends in death, doesn't it, for a lot of people?
Yeah.
It's like, before we hit, level 10 in the basement, how do we get off when it's 5? When it's starting to drop? And that's a key element to it, isn't it? And what would you say to someone out there that's kind of, they know something wrong, they're in an internal conflict, they know something's off because they've got the conscious part of them that's telling them, but there's another part of them that's keeping it going because they're telling them it's not that bad.
If they're a parent, I would say ask themselves, if this was your child, if this was your son or daughter, what would you want for them? Not what would you tell them? What would you want for them? And just simply write that down, because people often are so stuck in here. They can't even... I asked a lady the other day, what really does make you happy? What do you want for yourself? And she said, I don't know. Highly articulate woman, super, super academic, smart businesswoman. I don't think I've ever asked myself since I was about 8. I said, okay, we'll work out what that is together, and then we can go for it. So I think that.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Go for it.
If there are women out there that are feeling dismissed, and I'm acutely aware of what you've said about the
men.
We men as well, but how we kind of tell ourselves what I can call convenient truths, because that one being dismissed, so that we get into that victim mentality. What would you say to them, that feel like that in that position? How can they break through that and not take it as read and move forward?
Join charities that are free, called like Fertility Action Network. They're free. They will help support you, give you guidance. There's ones for heterosexual couples, women doing it on their own, donor conception, all of that. Like they can veer you here, there, and everywhere. Get support. Get my book, because it has all of the tests that you need to ask your GP for. Yeah. If they're blocking you, go to the NICE guidelines online of put in, what are you eligible to be asked for. We are in an unprecedented time where you can have access to amazing doctors out there. So find the online in... only on Instagram, so I can't tell you about TikTok and all that lot. I don't know about them. But on Instagram, I did a live the other week with Dr. Victory, who is one of the top IVF doctors in Canada. Because of his amazing following in Canada, he's now coming to a clinic 2 days a month in London. Trust me, if you put a question underneath there, he'll answer it. Yeah. That's free. Yeah. So if you're like, okay, I've had this response, what do I ask? my doctor to look for? And he'll answer you. Or go and ask another doctor, and in general, they will answer you. And I think that's wonderful. Men go to the group Test Him. That's free support group as well. You've got men that have gone through IVF 16 years ago, men that have had varicocele, men that are doing it on their own, all sorts of stages of the fertility journey. Go and find your tribe. If your mates down the pub or at work or your family are not supporting you, there is support out there.
So a really quick message for men.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Bloody hold your GP accountable. And if you are struggling in fertility or and also Dr. Fitri mentioned something the other week, which was really, I hadn't thought of. If you're in your 20s, so in England, there's a standard timeline. You can't go to your GP and ask them to send you for tests if you haven't been trying for whatever it is, 9 months or a year or whatever it is, right? But if you're in your 20s, that's okay advice. 30s maybe okay. 40s, no, you need to go now. So if you're older and you need to go now, but the NHS won't test you yet, just lie. Say, I've been trying for 18 months, even if you've only been trying for 3 months and you're over 40 or you're over 35, right? Then if first appointment, always ask for a double appointment, go together. The woman will go and get her checks, her bloods. The men need their bloods too. But also the men, drop your pants. If a woman's going for a transvaginal scan somewhere, men, ask your GP to check physically if there's a varicocele, because that is an obstruction so many are having. Also, the NHS standard sperm profile does not test for DNA fragmentation. If you have a low percentage of good morphology, like the shape, if you've only got a very low percentage, don't just jump in the IVF queue. Sort it out, because it could be, I'm not saying it is, it could be indicative that you have high DNA fragmentation, which is then going to cause you problems down the line. So I would get that test done first. If you have a sperm profile and it's not great, and then you have a second one and it's not great again, you then ask for an MRI on your tackle and get it done. Also, top tip, when is this coming out? When is this podcast coming out? To see if my voice soon. Okay, well, you got exclusive. Am I allowed to say this? I said this in the other. I don't know another way of saying it. I could. Double masturbation, right? It's called a double wank, right? Okay. So, this is scientific. Even if you're going, so when you do if you're having your sperm tested, or you're doing it at home, or you're dropping off the sperm because it's going to be used in IVF, do the double wank. So it's proven, and I'll send you the data, that the sperm is better after an hour or up to 3 hours later. So if you've got to go and drop it off, maybe masturbate at home, do what you want, or have sex with your partner if they're around, then go to the clinic where you're having it tested, and then do your test.
That's really interesting. And in relation to, if there are a couple that are wanting to try and, they'd really like a girl or they'd really like a boy, is that like a myth? Is there anything that they can do in vasectomy, or is it just up to the universe to decide?
Gods. There are some things within science they can do, but I don't know the ethical things and the morality around that.
That's fine. I just thought I'd ask. Right, we're usually going to finish with 5 quick fire questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Brace yourself.
It's hard to sit up tall in this seat. I'm like, chill out.
What's one daily habit that keeps you grounded?
Getting up an hour before everyone else in the house.
Love that one. The biggest lesson traumas taught you about business and entrepreneurship?
Oh, I love this question. Can you say that again? I think it's the best question that anyone's ever asked me
The
in a podcast.
biggest lesson
Yeah.
that trauma has taught you about business or entrepreneurship?
That a no isn't personal. That it's not my fault or whatever and all that other. I'm not good enough or no. It's just no, I'm not for them at the moment.
That's
or
good.
For that.
I like that. I really like that. And it sounds so slight, but in the bigger picture of stuff, it can just have such a big difference, can't it? What's one limiting belief you've had to let go of personally to enable you to grow?
That you don't have to have it all to be it all. Do you understand what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
If I have to explain that, it's like I was a single mum for so long, and I probably entered a relationship or tried to do certain jobs to be bigger to compensate for being a single mum, because I thought society wouldn't think I was good enough or I wasn't enough for my daughter, etc.
Got you. Love that. And finally,
Yeah.
Liberty Mills, please finish this sentence. Transformation starts when?
When you decide that you're worthy enough for it.
Amazing. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Liberty's book is out for order on Amazon. Liberty Mills Fertility 360. The links will be in the bio at the bottom of the thing. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back next time.